Welcome back to another Alvado video. Now in today's video, we're going to be watching a game played by K3 Soju. I have a pretty cool game for you guys today. This is Soju's 1201st game played of set 8. I watched the beginning of this stream hoping that he would play 1200 games. I think he needed to play like 18 games or something. I just checked his LoL chess. He's sitting at 1220 games, meaning he played 38 games in one sitting. The dude is a beast. I don't understand how like you can still play that many games and like function after, like 20 games or whatever. But I mean, that's exactly what Soju does, and that's exactly what he's known for. Okay, let's get into this game. So Soju started off Sword. AP is really strong, but of course you can still play AD. I honestly think that the meta is pretty balanced right now. He got dropped Belt and Glove, and I want to make note that look at what he got dropped off of this orb, a Nyla. That influences this next decision heavily. If he does not get dropped this Nyla, there's a good chance that he just takes Radiant Relics or Lucky Gloves here. He does have the spare Glove, so he can always go for Glove off of Carousel to make 2 Thieves Gloves if he wants, and that's like a really strong tempo opener. But since he got the Nyla drop from the orb, he's down to try and play this, this Star Guardian, this vertical Star Guardian build. Because now he has Nyla pair, so he only needs to find one more Nyla to have basically the most essential unit in this Star Guardian line. Because if you think about all the frontliners, Rell, Nyla, and Echo, Rell is just not strong enough to be like one of the best frontliners for the like Star Guardian comp. And then Echo, you just can't get to like you can't always consistently get to a certain spot in the game where you can realistically hit an Echo 2. So if you can get a Nyla 2, then that sets you up like really well to have like a really strong mid game. And we're gonna go ahead and see exactly how he's able to play around, this Star Guardian crest. Another thing to note, Star Guardian Crown, he gives you a Star Guardian crest, it gives you a Nyla, and then it gives you a Chalice of Power, Soju's favorite item, Q Cone. Lots of people in the chat spamming Q Cone after he takes that, and Q Cone actually got buffed recently. They didn't buff the damage, they made it so that the unit holding the Chalice of Power gets 15 extra starting mana. So you always get 15 mana because it's built with a tier, but then on top of that you get 15 more, so you basically get 30 starting mana, which might not seem like that much, but in a Star Guardian build, casting is like very important. So it definitely helps, and you'll see later down the line that having Chalice makes certain units like a lot stronger to hold as like an item holder support. He goes for Rod off of Carousel, and even though he started with Glove, Sword, Belt, he's still able to flex into this AP line because he thinks that it's strong enough that he can just not have to slam any of his initial items, and he can just use the items that he got as like half components. Another really strong pivotal unit in this comp is Kai'Sa. You can see here that he chose to, he actually got a Nyla pair, but he chose to not take the Nyla out of the orb because he was 4-lossing, and he needed to make sure he lost the final round, and it's a good thing he chose to sack his board because he just played an Underground player. And the Underground player was like sort of strong, but they definitely weren't like strong enough to probably win him or strong enough to lose against him if Soju was to play his strongest board. And we can see there that he held the Kai'Sa, and he got pretty lucky because he got a double Kai'Sa shop. But then he always had this this Nyla 2 because he got a Nyla from the previous round, and then he just chose to not make the Nyla. He had the Nyla from the Star Guardian orb left in like on the board there. And so he goes ahead and he itemizes this Kai'Sa. The reason why Kai'Sa is so strong in this Star Guardian comp is because exactly like Echo, where Echo is too hard to 2-star realistically in like a vertical Star Guardian build, similarly Kai'Sa, or I mean Taliyah is very hard to realistically always be able to depend on in like a vertical Star Guardian build. We can see here that the hero augment was 222, and instead of rolling for something like Rel, he has the Yuumi pair, and they did just buff the Zumi's hero augment that he took here. It used to give your entire team 20% attack speed, now it gives your entire team 22% attack speed. I know it seems kind of small, but remember that Star Guardians gain extra mana from every single source. So attack speed is actually like a really important stat because they gain more mana from, like the mana that you generate from autos. If you have 100% mana generation, then instead of gaining 10 mana for every auto, then you're going to be gaining 20 mana for every auto. So that's exactly why like attack speed is so important. And we can see exactly how he's itemizing this Kai'Sa here. He's sitting on sword and bow, but he doesn't want to make Giant Slayer in this spot because he wants to prioritize the best items that he can get for Taliyah. And Giant Slayer, easily like one of the strongest items that you can put on Kai'Sa. And it is really good on Taliyah as well, but he values like the components as their individuals, and he'd rather go for things like Shiv, Gunblade, Shojin. He thinks those are more beneficial on units like Taliyah. And if you were to make Giant Slayer here, there's a good chance that, if he didn't get lucky with like his future components, then he might like mess up exactly like how he wants his build to be. And exactly like how I was talking about in the beginning, getting this Nyla 2 is so important because look at this guy's frontline. He's literally frontlining. He was frontlining his Yuumi in the previous round, and now he's frontlining his Lux, because realistically there are not that many strong frontline Star Guardian units, and in a position where you don't really want to have to roll, he doesn't have any Rels, so he can't just like get a Rel out of thin air and choose to utilize that as like a frontliner. You can see he finally gets one Rel here, but it's still not stronger than what he currently has. If you look at the health bars, Lux I think still has slightly more health than this Rel 1. So, it's still like pretty good, and frontlining Lux is not that bad because normally you get at least 2 casts off. If you go and watch this fight, then you'll see that Lux gets like an initial cast just through taking like a small amount of damage and through autoing. And then she takes like a bunch of damage and just barely gets a second cast off. And those casts are really important because Lux actually drops the AD of units that she hits with her spell. So the faster that you can get Lux to cast, then, it's going to affect the fight a lot more later down the line. So he leveled to 7 here, and it's pretty funny because he was looking for 1 Taliyah or 1 Echo so that he could hit that 7 Star Guardian, but he actually just ends up hitting a Syndra. And it's not like that high roll, like that crazy high roll in the moment, because it's not like Syndra is like that much better than Echo or Taliyah in this spot, but it's definitely high roll for later down the line because he now knows that he always has this Syndra, so that he can very easily, or like, so he can eventually hit 9 Star Guardian. Because if you have 1 crest, then you have the ability to hit 9 as long as you just have all the other units, and then you need to be level 9. There is no Star Guardian heart. Final augment here, he doesn't like what he sees, he rolls past it. It was like Gadgetzan heart and Tome. He wants like a more utilizable augment. He finds Spellslinger crest, and how many times have you played a 7 or like 9 Star Guardian line? Probably not very often. But when you get to the spot where you're playing like 1200 games, you know exactly how to play certain lines because there's a good chance that you've probably played it before. And even if you haven't played it, like let's say Soju's never gotten a 9 Star Guardian game before, the amount of knowledge that you accrue through just playing like the sheer number of games that he has, you could realistically better understand, how strong certain comps are and exactly how you're going to play around comps. So the reason why he goes for Spellslinger Crest here is because he doesn't have Taliyah yet. and he already knows what he wants his final board to look like. He wants it to be 9 Star Guardian, 4 Spellslinger. The 4 Spellslingers are going to be Taliyah, Lux, Janna, and then the +1 emblem. And also worth noting here, this is also, you know, a really big benefit of hitting the Syndra, because the issue with this Star Guardian comp is that it definitely lacks frontline. Even if he had a Rel 2 here, he probably still wouldn't have like the best frontline. But since he has this Syndra, he's able to throw this Zac 2 on his bench in. And, you know, at this point in time in the game, Zac 2 is probably like one of the best units that you can throw in with Syndra. Also, he just went for a second ice cream cone. That's also what some people call power of the Chalice of Power. So he now has 2 chalices on this Syndra, and I think it's insta-casting. So it's gaining 60 bonus mana, 60 bonus starting mana. And yeah, you can see that the Syndra's blue bar is maxed out. That's because it has enough starting mana that it's going to cast as soon as the fight starts. It's also something that he's doing is, since he wants the Zac to be thrown in as the first unit, because that's easily the best one, you can see he throws the Zac in and then he buys the Cho'Gath. And then she throws the Cho'Gath in and then he buys the Nyla. And then he throws the Nyla in, she buys the Annie. He's individually buying the next strongest unit that Syndra can throw in, and then he's like continuing to buy the next one after that unit gets thrown in, so that he's always getting the exact unit that he wants thrown in by Syndra. If you are in a spot where you're like level 9 capping your board out and you don't know what to put as like a +1, you can always put Syndra, and then Syndra can always just throw in like a Fiddlesticks 2, and then, you know, if you're already at that point, then you can also use Syndra to, you know, throw in a Fiddlesticks 2 and then a second like 2-star 5 cost, maybe like a Mordekaiser 2. Or, you know, some ways that I've seen it being used is if you have Ace on your team and you don't want to lose out on the Ace buff, and you happen to find a Mordekaiser 2, well, instead of playing the Mordekaiser, you can just play a Syndra, and then you'll throw in the Mordekaiser 2, and then it won't ruin the Ace, whether or not you're playing around like Samira or Misfortune or something. Because a lot of those comps heavily depend on like the Ace. The Ace is really strong, so you don't want to remove that. But that is one way that you can, you know, fit in a Mordekaiser 2 in a comp that, you know, has an Ace unit by just playing a Syndra instead. So he's rolling on level 8. You might be kind of wondering why he's doing that. Well, first of all, he's getting really low HP, so rolling is pretty valuable. If he can hit this Echo 2, if he can hit, you know, better units, you can see he chooses to put in this this Sona instead of the, or he actually, oh, I didn't even realize he got the 2-star Taliyah already, and he replaced the Taliyah. He replaced the Kai'Sa with the Taliyah and then added in the Sona. He now has 4 Spellslinger, and then he's looking to replace the Sona with Janna. But anyways, he was rolling on level 8 because he needed to find Rel. He didn't have Rel, and he wants to play a 9-star Guardian. And he knows that 9-star Guardian is strong enough that he's going to level right now. And look at how many units on his board are still yet to be upgraded. He's choosing to fit in 9-star Guardian before he's even hitting Echo 2. He still has frontline Lux, by the way. The thing is that 9-star Guardian is so busted that spike is probably like one of the biggest trait spikes in the game. It's pretty comparable to, you know, Laser Core. You can hit 7 and 9 Laser Core. So you know that like 7 Laser Core is really strong. But the difference between 7 and 9 is like insane. It's pretty similar with Star Guardian, especially because, you know, units like Syndra are legitimately just throwing in, you know, minimum like 2 units a fight, maximum upwards of like 10 units a fight. You can literally throw like your entire bench in if your frontline is strong enough to, you know, sustain Syndra's casting. You can kind of see, I know the fights are sped up, but the Syndra threw in, what, 4 units? I think he threw in a Syndra, and then the Syndra threw in more stuff. He also made point that Taliyah with 9 Star Guardian is 3 autos to cast. So imagine like the mana pool of Zoe, right? Zoe, blue buff Zoe, it's like really broken. Zoe has 30 mana pool. Taliyah with 9 Star Guardian is basically like a Zoe. So it's imagine like instead of Zoe just casting like the Zoe bubble that just does like barely any tick damage, it's like a whole Taliyah cast. He goes for blue buff off of the anvil there. Now the reason why he did that is because mana items are insane in 9 Star Guardian. You might think like, oh, you should put on Urgot so you can get the Urgot to like instacast. Look at this Yuumi. It's literally like one auto, and then she's just constantly casting. Look at the damage right here. Look at the damage on the right side. Actually, the Yuumi didn't do that much that fight, but there was one fight where the Yuumi ended up doing like 4k or something with literally just a singular blue buff. And also worth noting that the Yuumi is like a heart unit, so the more that this Yuumi is casting, the entire team is getting AP from that. To go over the checklist of some of the best Star Guardian units, he's not going to be playing Star Guardian Nunu this game because he really wants to fit in the Force Spellslinger. But if you ever get a chance, I mean, this would have been the most opportune game to do it because he also has Zoomies. Zoomies makes Nunu like move faster. I mean, it makes your whole team move faster. But when Nunu gets like movement speed, he gets like really fast. So Zoomies Nunu is insane, and then also Star Guardian Nunu is insane. Because Nunu, instead of gaining, like he doesn't auto, right? So instead of gaining mana through autos, he just gains like mana over time, and I'm pretty sure he has like a 90 mana pool, and he gains like 30 mana per second or something. So instead of, gaining 30 mana per second, he basically gains like his entire mana pool every second, so he starts stacking up the like the Nunu snowball like really quickly. And some more interesting plays here. So it's a top 2 situation. He just ended up beating like a really stacked like underground player. He gets Prankster Crest off of Carousel, puts it on Nyla. Now he has the Prankster with Echo, and then he does a quick repositioning to make sure he gets the most value out of this locket. Now look at this fight right here. I mean, this Syndra is pulling in so many units that the fight doesn't even look close. But it's pretty obvious that there's like some massive fight RNG going on here, because this next fight is a lot closer and there's not a single thing that changes about Sox's board. So we can see here that he has, double Fiddle. He sees that he gets the Fiddlesticks 2 thrown in first, which is like the best case scenario, and then he starts holding on other units. And yeah, I don't know what exactly happened. I think he just same-sided his Cho'Gath in like the exact perfect spot and just got like really good fight RNG, because even with how strong that 9 Star Guardian build was, I mean, it literally wiped his whole board last fight. This fight, just didn't go the same way. I don't know what to say. Honestly, don't know what the main difference was there. Yeah, Soju showing you exactly how strong this 9 Star Guardian can be. I think on this patch especially, there's so many different builds now that they have like a lot of the core units and augments and items balanced, that realistically, if you just know exactly how you should be playing around like a certain comp, like exactly how Soju showed in this game, then you can top 4 with practically anything. Hopefully you learned something from this video. Like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.